To our Bridging the Gap webinar. This is our second episode of our GCS Connect Diversity series, and we're hoping to bring a lot more events over the next couple of months, so make sure to keep an eye on our GCS Connect Diversity LinkedIn page. Here at GCS, diversity and inclusion is something that we hugely value, and we need to bring awareness to this topic, especially within the tech industry. Whether it's gender, race, or underrepresented communities, we believe everybody should feel included and feel equal on a diverse team. So today we'll be discussing some diversity and inclusion strategies and principles, and these can be used for teams across the world and any type of tech team. So we'll move on to our panel now. So firstly we have Furkan.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here today. My name is Furkan Karayel. I'm an inclusive leadership advisor at Diversein. I help leaders to become role models for diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And I am also a lecturer in equality, diversity, and inclusion topics on AIDT, Institute of Art, Design, and Technology at Dunleary. That's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Furkan. We'll move on to Nora next.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nora Cullen. I am a Senior Solution Engineering Manager at Salesforce. I manage a team of 10 people who are all technical consultants on our technology. And I've been working there for 7 years, so I am in a hiring capacity as well.
Perfect. Now we'll move on to Divya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Divya Bansal. So first of all, thank you, Betty and Lauren, for inviting for this panel and giving me an opportunity to talk about the diversity and inclusiveness. So I'm working as a software engineering manager at Eaton, and I look after the team of data scientists, which is predominantly for Center for Intelligent Power. Overall, I have 13 years experience in the IT industry, working and leading multiple diverse projects and people. Personally, for me, diversity and inclusiveness is essential and very important part of any organization. And I see diversity and inclusion not only at the ground level, but from the ground to the top level. So I do see the importance of diversity and inclusion at all levels. So just very excited, looking forward to speak to all of you. Thank you.
Perfect. We'll move on to Sheila.
Thanks for the opportunity for joining today. My name is Sheila Sullivan. I'm a Senior Manager in Fidelity Investments. I'm a Senior Manager on one of our cryptocurrency programs, which is really interesting. I've about 15 years experience in technology in all, in various roles from developer to product owner, right up to Senior Manager. Within Fidelity, I'm part of the Women's Leadership Group, the Women in Technology Special Interest Group, and I also am part of a core group looking at diversity and inclusion across 3 business units in Fidelity. So this is something that's really close to my heart and something that I have a lot of interest in. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Brilliant. And last but not least, we have Evelyn.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Evelyn Nomeo. I am a full stack developer. I'm also a data scientist. I also teach and a technology consultant. And at the same time, I'm a woman in tech evangelist. I started my career as a banker, and I've worked for a couple of organizations as a developer and as a trainer. I am also the founder of a company called Innovate, and what we'll do, we strive to bridge the gender and race gap in the tech field. And we do so by educating the underrepresented in tech through a structured mentoring system. And I'm also a PhD fellow at Trinity College at the moment. My PhD research is focused on reduction of latency in IoT architecture using emerging technologies. I'm delighted to be part of this team. Thank you.
Brilliant, Evelyn. You're a very busy woman. Perfect. So feel free to send in any questions that you have. And we also have some questions prepared to start off this webinar. So I suppose firstly, Nora, you mentioned that you're in a hiring capacity. So would you say that your shortlist of candidates at the minute, is it mixed, or do you think that there needs to be a specific focus on that area?
So yeah, that's an interesting question. It's a topic that always comes up around the candidate pools. We can talk as much as we want about diversity, but in all honesty, in my belief is that it has to go back a little bit earlier. So the answer would be yes and no. Yes, for a number of reasons. I mean, we're all learning that our job specs need to be a lot more inclusive, that a lot of people, depending on what area of diversity we're looking at, which we of course should be looking at all areas, are just, not taken into consideration, and oftentimes these roles are not made available to them. So yes, I work in a tech company. I don't come from a tech background, and I'm where I am. So I always hope to showcase that to people before I go out to market and start looking for people to join my team, so that they can understand that it is not an elite field and everyone has the capacity to learn. I'm also very fortunate in the company that I work in that we have put a huge amount of effort into this area. We have actually defined 5 inclusive hiring principles that we look at. And the second principle on that is that we strive to have a candidate pool that reflects our communities and all that that encompasses. But to be honest, for me, what I really like to do is start with the education. That can be right back to the very early stages of education with the volunteer time that I do, or it could be a little bit later for people who are looking at changing careers, which is a big passion of mine, to look for people to look at where they can change careers. So we have to put a lot of work into it ourselves as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose a lot of the decision making would come from, higher up. I suppose I'll direct this one to you, Sheila. How do we get, leaders involved in diversity and inclusion from, a higher, I suppose, platform?
Yeah, so I suppose we're very lucky in Fidelity Investments that it's something that's driven across the enterprise. But if you look at somebody that, a company that's starting from scratch, and I suppose they're trying to figure out how can they get D&I off the ground, I definitely think that it has to come from both sides. It can't be like top-down driven or bottom-up driven. It's something that you need buy-in from leadership, and you need buy-in from the associates as well. So I suppose from diversity, like the buy-in for a lot of people is it's just the right thing to do. But sometimes that doesn't resonate with, many people either. So the other thing is, the business benefits. Like there's massive business benefits associated with diversity. So like some teams, diverse teams outperform other teams by 800%. Like that's a massive stat. Like the increase in innovation for a diverse team is twofold or even more than that. Definitely from a recruitment perspective, people want to join a diverse and inclusive company. And again, I think that's a massive business benefit as well. But also companies' customer base want to see themselves reflected in the employees that, build their software. So again, that's another massive, benefit of diversity. So I think, from that management and leadership level, like identifying the benefits and why it's of value to them. But I think from the associate level, I think there are certain things that we can do there to get their buy-in also. I don't know if people are familiar with a privilege walk. I don't know if anybody's been involved in that previously, but that's just something that our D&I leader for our site does with some of our groups. I think it's actually really good to just get buy-in from the associate level. A privilege walk is where, just say for example, you've got like 10 people line up in a straight line, and then the facilitator goes through a series of questions. So like just say, ask about 10 questions. So for example, take a step forward if English is your first language. So, a person would step forward, other people that don't have English as a first language would stay in the same position. Next one is, have you ever had to take vacation for a religious holiday? If so, step back. So after the series of questions, people are in different locations in the room. And I think visually it really communicates to people that some people are privileged and some people aren't. And one thing she does then, I think it's really effective, is she actually gives everybody a piece of paper, gets them to crumple it up and says, okay, there's a bin at the top of that room. Whoever gets the piece of paper into that bin gets a promotion at the end of the year. So people who are at the top of the room and are privileged have, easy access to that, whereas people at the back of the room don't have access to that easily and have to, work a lot harder. So I think something like that, it's very simple, but I think it can really get people bought into, why is diversity so important for our teams?
That's brilliant. Thanks, Sheila. And I think, Divya, you mentioned before that your director prioritizes that as well.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Lauren? I missed the last piece.
Yeah, your director prioritizes this type of strategy as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like CIP part of the Eaton is relatively a new unit, which was set up, I think, 2.5 years back. And it's a combination of research and development. And it's kind of a startup in the Eaton, which is probably a many years old company. But then the way it was strategized, that when we are hiring, we make sure we have all diverse group. So if I talk about my particular team, the data scientists, we are, including myself, we are the team size of 13. We have approximately 6-7 cultures representative already in the size of 13. We have approximately 40% women in my team, and I'm of course the manager for the team. So you can understand there have been a lot of work being done. It has been strategized, and relatively, like, based on my recent conversation with our global director, they actually put a specific emphasis in terms of hiring. They left the roles relatively longer open to make sure that we are attracting the talent from the different diverse group. And I think it is very important to understand, I think Nora and Sheila both mentioned that, different aspects of hiring. So it's very important we understand that we are not targeting one culture. We are targeting the billion citizens of the earth, right? So we are targeting so many diverse cultures. So it's important we have this reflection of the society in our company, in our people, so that we can ideate, we can think about different things, we can reach out what people will need in terms of our product consumer. And at the same time, when we put everybody together, the inclusive culture, then we can have different minds working together and build something which is, suitable for everything. Just one more thing I would like to add on Sheila's point, that when she was mentioning, some people are privileged and some other not. One thing I definitely see working well for Eaton and the unit that I am part of in Eaton is that our leaders are constantly investing, and they are open for ideas. It's more, of course, we have all kind of different levels working in the organization. But at the same time, we don't hesitate to listen from our engineers or the data scientists or the other group members in the team. We encourage them to talk to us. We have team retrospect, especially in this environment when pandemic is happening, people are working from home. We want to hear what is working for them, what is not working for them. And then it ultimately comes to the board. We want, when we have the summary of the feedback from the people, to see what we can do. And I think that is definitely helping us to keep people inclusive, hear more them out. And just that's the nutshell that I see, that it's like, how Sheila was mentioning, it's not bottom to up or bottom to up, it's a combination of everything together.
Yeah. Exactly. And I suppose, Furkan, for a company who hasn't, established a diversity and inclusion strategy, what is the first steps that they need to take?
First of all, I would like to reflect on my views on Sheila's and Divya's. I think investing on leaders' perspective is super important key, and which is very, very good to hear that is happening in some companies. And I actually worked in tech companies for 10 years before my journey into diversity and inclusion. And I have seen that how privilege is actually impacting the life of others, and especially from different backgrounds, like Sheila, like you mentioned. And I have witnessed that, I think, every year nearly, on the time of promotion, on the time that something is, an opportunity is coming up. In terms of how to start from scratch, I get this question very much, and thank you so much for asking this. The first thing I ask is, like, what is the vision? So what you would like to achieve in terms of diversity and inclusion? Because it's a huge topic. You could be aiming for, like, is it 50-50 genderly balanced leadership, or is it culturally, diversity in cultural perspective, or reflecting your client base in your employees? So what is the vision? I think having that vision conversation is the first thing I would ask. The next one is building a safe space so that people can actually put their differences out there without being afraid. It could be, there are many forms of this, but it could be in a platform that people can anonymously write up their comments, or it could be a group discussion with leadership and depending of the employee resource groups together, and really listening to those authentic voices and and see where does what can you actually do this together, like Sheila was mentioning, not only from top down but bottom up. But it's, imagine you are a leader of 1,000 employees, and they are all from very different backgrounds that you even maybe haven't heard or haven't experienced. So you will not have any answer to that, not one person or one group, but it's everybody's contributing to the solution. What it makes is it also gives people to own the problem, own the task, own the solution together. Unless, like, for example, if you tell somebody to do something, they are probably not gonna invest some time and energy on that. But if you ask them, how do you want this to be solved, then they are going to put some thought, and they are going to maybe appreciate your approach, and you come into a solution together. And finally, I can say sharing the story of leadership is also very good, because we all would like to see why our leaders are committed to diversity and inclusion. What is this story behind it? And it just resonates with people, and they say, this is why my leader is invested, and that's why they prioritize diversity and inclusion in our company.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Furkan. And Evelyn, I suppose, is there any areas that you've seen that companies have fallen down on diversity inclusion?
Okay, so again, thanks. Thank you, those that came before me. You've done some wonderful trashing of the topic. Something that baffles me the most is the fact that why would a company not strive to get it right? Why? Because it's been proven time and time again that diversity in workplace ensures variety of different perspectives. And when you have that, that's super. It increases creativity. You have higher innovation. It increases profitability. We're there for us to make profits. So why don't we see this as something that is so important that we need to get it right? So that's why I say it baffles me. Number one, if a company is even thinking of getting involved in this, they should do it from the bottom of their heart. They shouldn't do diversity checkbox. I'm saying this because I have been admitted into places because I'm Black. Do you get it? Oh yeah, there's somebody of color that's there already, so they're okay with that. Without even ensuring if I'm being catered for, which is key. So it's not enough to get them there. How do you carry them along? So these are some places that companies are missing out. They just have them there and they leave them there, which it's not good for me. Then again, if they could also have key metrics in achieving whatever diverse goal they are trying to, they should have metrics and follow through with it. How did it go? Were we able to meet the target we set ourselves genuinely? Because if the company actually do this genuinely, they will get it right and it will help their business grow. There was I keep giving this example, I'm sure some of us have seen it, of this hand dispenser that was made solely for people, light-skinned people. When you put your hand to wash your hands, if you're a dark person, you put your hands to wash your hands, it will not disperse because it was solely designed for people, for white people. And guess what? Maybe they didn't do it on purpose, but they are losing business. If they had an open mind, they are diverse in their way of thinking, they won't make such silly mistakes. So again, that's one reason why companies should embrace diversity in whatever sphere that they find themselves in. And of course, leadership. A couple of you talked about leadership. If a leader does not buy into it, it is really hard for the followers to tag along. Yes, it's good from both ways, absolutely. But the leader is key. If I don't buy into it, and there's reports or there are things going on around that's not right, and the leader is not part of it, it's going to be difficult. So leadership is very key. And again, training. Yeah, there's loads of diversity training going on here and there, but how impactful are these training? How impactful are they? I found that if lived experiences are incorporated in whatever training that companies are doing, it actually change behaviors. If they actually, because people are good generally, you know, but you just need to touch their soft spots. You need to know, you need to know, find out what will actually make them show empathy. Because when they're able to extract that empathy, it is good for them to embrace diversity. And again, communication, you know, don't assume that somebody that do not look like you is like that. Talk to that person. We are all the same. We just look different. And God knows why he made us different, you know, but we are all human beings. Let me not go on and on. I'll leave the space for my others to continue.
Thank you, Evelyn. We actually got a few Q&As in, so we'll go to them. So firstly, our first one is Sheila, really interesting on the privilege walk, and certainly a strong visual representation of the challenges individuals can face. This obviously works well when everyone in the office is together, but in a remote world, what other exercises can businesses look to use? So I'll leave that open to anybody that wants to answer.
Well, actually, I chatted about this yesterday with our D&I lead, Nora Cullen. So she actually does this like on an Excel sheet, like, so it's something that she's been doing for groups, and she's actually doing it for our group in 2 weeks' time. Because I was like, how are you still going to get the same point across when you're not literally in an office and people are trying to, you know, get that paper in the bin? So she's like, look, you know, I have a format for doing it remotely. Literally everybody starts off at a 0, and based on the questions being asked, you know, I give a +1 or a -1. And she's like, obviously we don't have that same, you know, place in terms of seeing exactly, you know, within a physical room. However, if we're going through an Excel or something like that, you can still draw the boundaries and show where the promotion is and show where people are at the end. So she said like something like that would definitely, you know, give buy-in from that level as well.
Brilliant.
And I think, and again, it's not just something that can be done with just associate level. Like I think across the board, I think it's really important that, you know, managers and associates all buy into D&I. And I think it's a really good exercise for that.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. The next question is, great point, Evelyn, about companies adopting diversity genuinely. Has anyone on the panel seen disingenuous diversity adoption? I'll leave that open as well. If anybody, Nora, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so look, I am super privileged, let's be honest, right? I am an Irish person working in Ireland, I am white, and some people might think, oh, you're a woman, you must find it very difficult. And of course, I've had people say things to me throughout my career and the various careers I've been in before. I don't want to discredit anybody, but I will say I used to work in Leinster House, and I have had people stop me in the hallways as when I was a political assistant and ask me, sure, you're probably only here because you're a woman. I've had a couple of people say that in different areas, and in all those instances, they have been places where we have looked at quotas. And back to Evelyn's point, a quota it can be very much seen by everybody as a tick the box exercise. If you're not doing it genuinely, if you're not questioning why are we doing this, if you're not able to articulate the vision that you want to have and understanding the challenges that you've had in getting to where you want to get to, you are never going to achieve what you're saying you're looking to achieve. So absolutely, certainly, but my guidance to anybody would be to challenge with the intention of coming to an iterative, better decision on how we achieve this. And you simply cannot do it sitting there alone as a leadership team. You have to be asking everybody who will be impacted by any decisions you make, how we can do it much more authentically. I love how you put it, Evelyn. That passion, I think, is felt by everybody here.
Yeah, brilliant. And we'll move on to the next, I suppose, question. And it's something that we were chatting about before, which is including a team while working remote. So does anybody have any kind of, I suppose, suggestions on how we can do that whilst working remote?
Well, I can probably take that first, if that's okay.
Yes, of course, Divya.
So of course, so I'll give a bit of a context why probably I have a bit more insight on that. So I changed the job during the pandemic, and I joined Eaton in the month of March when the first week of my joining, the lockdown started. So I remotely started. I haven't met my team face to face. I only met the global director who interviewed me for this role and one of the principal engineer. But other than that, I haven't met anybody. So I basically was introduced, had an induction remotely, and then happened to work with my lovely data scientist team remotely. And in my learning so far in last 8 months is that be approachable for your team, and they know that they have this virtual, like you have a virtual door open for them, so they can contact you. They know you are approachable, and especially when you are new and taking over from previous manager, it's very important that you are staying in the touch. You have a regular conversations with your team. But what really worked in my favor personally in terms of including and have, because the team is so diverse, I have a young talented team, and like I said, 7 different cultures, and then many men and women in the combination. So we are running the team retrospectives. And as part of that, what we are discussing about what is working well for us, what is not working for us, and what do we want to improve. And that is predominantly, I just run it as a facilitator. I don't run it as a manager. And outcome of is brilliant. We recently ran it on the topic of communication, and we had some great learnings, and team proposed some nice ideas how we can improve the communication while working from home. There's a girl in my team who's very active about the social events and everything. So she proposed an idea about banter. So recently guys were talking about Halloween movies and all that stuff, which we usually don't talk because we all are working from home, we are busy, we have more meetings attending. But small things like that, a couple of us are very active in the well-being. So recently we have been doing the mindfulness, practicing meditation together. And these things are beautiful because this doesn't target to anybody really region or a culture. It basically brings what you can talk about your dog or cat or your kids or your family. So I think it's the combination of everything to make sure that you are there for your team, and your team is there, they are finding you comfortable to talk to you. And yeah, just be there. That's how I see it overall working so far, at least in last 8 months. The challenge that I faced, which I never faced in my life, along with the pandemic. So I think I have a great learnings from that perspective. So yeah, I think the retrospective was a good idea.
Thank you. And I think
yeah, I was just going to add, like, I definitely think, like, I think we all, in March, we all thought, okay, this is going to be a month. And I think, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I think everybody, did great strides in terms of, okay, we'll, do this social hour, we'll do painting together, and we'll do all these different activities. But now the fact that we're in October, actually we're in November, I think people kind of nearly lost that momentum. So that's something that, like, we're trying to bring back within Fidelity Investments again, to just regenerate, that momentum around, that inclusiveness and making sure that we're forming those communities. Like, one thing that we do think is really important is, like, the manager's role now, I think, is more important than ever, and making sure that we have inclusive leadership, because really the manager is that glue that, make sure everybody stays together and, has a real vibe in terms of how people are actually feeling, because I think in meetings, you can really, join a meeting and you can see, people's reactions, but you truly know your associates. So, there's often times that I've come off a call and I'm like, do you know what? I actually think X, Y, or Z is not feeling it now. I just feel like there's a vibe. And, I'd reach out and just say, are you doing okay? Because at the end of the day, we're all human. This is difficult. We're going through a crazy time, and it's just having that human aspect to, I suppose, make sure and have empathy and making sure that people are okay. And I definitely think, like, those social areas, like, all of that social aspect is massive. But I think rather than making it a thing, I think we need to build it into existing, ceremonies as well. So I love that, Divya, the way that you're doing that retrospective. And, we've loads of Scrum Masters in Fidelity Investments. So, like, on our team, I've asked our Scrum Master to, please build in the time, so if we're doing planning, or if we're doing retros, or if we're doing, our stand-up, build in a little bit of a social aspect so that it's not, once a week type thing.
Yeah. We actually recently, part of our sprint review meeting, one of the team, we actually had a team, and oh, sorry, can you hear me guys now?
Yeah.
So actually, I just wanted to add that we recently had a sprint review for one of our project, and we had towards the end of the sprint review. So we wanted to have a bit of an element of fun or some team conversation, which is not anything about the project, but in general. So we had a theme about my hero. So a couple of people talked about who are they inspired by. And, like I'm personally a big fan of Wonder Woman characters. So, I don't shy away talking about why I'm inspired by Wonder Woman. So, it's good to know that side of the people as well. So I think even in general, like if we are working in an agile environment, even the small, team events, you can bring those fun elements wherever you can add in, and it can bring that human side out, and people feel more connected and inclusive from that perspective as well.
Perfect. And Evelyn, I
suppose something regarding that. I'll speak from. There was a time I was heading a team of developers, and they were in different part of the world, about 6 of them. And I was the leader in that team, and they were all men. I noticed that one of the guys was constantly texting me, unusual, because I wasn't used to that. Typically we'll have a meeting and we do a Zoom, calls and all that. But he was, every morning he comes in, he texts me, send me a text, how is my day? How, I was like, this is unusual. At times I ignore him. But later he stopped texting me. I'm like, okay. I noticed, I started feeling, what happened? But later it just dawned on me, maybe this is a cultural thing, and I Googled where the guy is from. And that's it, culture. They're used to exchanging pleasantry on a daily basis, whatever. I don't know him physically, but I work with him, remotely and all that. So I think it is important that whoever we are working with, we should try to understand where this person is from. Or when I say where this person, I'm not saying you go dig some basic things like what I just missed out. Now I wanted this guy to do stuff for me. You could see because I ignored him, which is not good. And the reason I ignored him was because he was constantly telling me, how are you doing in the morning? I was like, some other stuff. I just felt that was too personal, but it was just the culture. So I think if I knew that was the culture, I would have responded in a better way. So I think it's important for us to also understand the culture, some culture, at least this type of the people we work with, especially when we are doing it remotely.
Yes, I agree.
That's a good point around culture, absolutely. And also even individuals within each culture have so many different ways of thinking. And one of the things that's been amplified for me right now, I have a team of 10 people, but we work across a team of nearly 30. And we do our team meetings on a Friday. That's too many people to really get their 2 cents in. But we do lots of different things to address the team feeling and keep that team feeling, but also to recognize where some people are introverts, they're just not going to get a word in edgeways. And some people are extroverts and are hating being in lockdown and are finding it particularly challenging and deflates them. I'm somewhere in the middle, but so I'll go back and forth on a day to day. But I love to hear that everybody is using empathy as the driver, because ultimately nothing gets done unless we understand one another and seek first to understand, then to be understood. But if people are looking for tips and tricks, I mean, I think we could all, I'll probably post something on LinkedIn later. We use Kahoot. I do funny little quizzes and people have to guess who on the team answered them. And like yourself, Divya, they may not have met anybody because they started during lockdown. So it's a fun way to get to know one another, but also we will do things like retrospectives to be serious and to consider, let's assume this is the new normal for quite some time. We need to still look out for each other.
Yeah, brilliant. Some great insights there. We have another 2 questions, which is brilliant. So the first one is, what are your thoughts on companies who focus on gender diversity as opposed to diversity as a whole? I find it very common in the tech industry as it's male-dominated industry. And maybe Furkan, you might be able to give some advice on this.
Sorry, I missed the question. Could you maybe read that again? Because
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on companies who focus on gender diversity as opposed to diversity as a whole? I find it very common in tech industry as it's a male-dominated industry.
Yeah, I think what we were saying in the panel, feeling the buy-in from the leaders as why they should actually invest into more than only the gender perspective is really important. For example, I give an example to to some of my clients. Let's say they have a vision for, we would like to have a leadership team with 50-50 equal and balance. And then I say, okay, what is next? But it doesn't mean having 50-50 percent balance is that those people have inclusive mindset who will actually help and who will understand working with different cultures. I think we shouldn't miss that that piece, and that's why educating the leaders to show why it doesn't make sense only focusing on gender is really important. An insight, we recently launched an inclusive intelligence course, and it also shows there that because many investments are really going into diversity at the moment, let's say trying to find talents from different backgrounds, and then they are being hired and they are coming. But if those diverse teams are not managed by inclusive leaders, diverse teams' performance is actually much lower than the homogeneous teams. You see the impact of a leader, how they enables the team, and comparing to, it's like I describe diversity as being invited to the table, and inclusion is sharing the cake fairly. I give an example that imagine you are being invited to the table, but you are not part of the cake, or you are like, people are out there and they are actively participating. You are being invited, but then you are not really taking part. It is even worse than you are not being invited to the table at all. So I think we, like, as the person, like I have been the only female in my team for such a long time working in tech companies. Back then I had so much to say, but I couldn't share because of my introversion just really stopped me. I didn't know whom to contact, what to do. But coming into that feedback and retrospective view, if there was an opportunity for me to be able to put out what I think, I would have definitely reached out, because in some organizations, they are not as big as, they don't have maybe a culture team, they don't have a diverse and inclusion manager. But then if there is a room for them, a safe space, people can actually put their feedbacks, and then these things happen. These things can, these authentic voices that they can actually take into account. Yeah.
Can I just add a stat for that as well? And like, I'm actually going to read it because it's a long one, but I just think that, and I've definitely seen this, a lot, where people just think, D&I is purely like that gender diversity. I'm just going to read this. So in terms of decision making, when the teams are all male, good decisions were made 58% of time. This is based on research, right? So when the teams had a good gender diversity, this rose to 73. But when they added in greater age, gender, and geographic diversity, better decisions were made 87% of the time. And I just think that alone, like, that speaks volumes, that it's not just the gender diversity, it's literally the mix of people, and that's where you're going to get your value.
Yeah. And there's a spectrum to it as well. It's not like you expect to see things happening just suddenly when you hire, when you educated people. When you form the team, there is always like it goes up, it goes down. So the productivity, the performance is actually is not that straightforward. So we shouldn't really expect straight away an answer. So it all takes time. We should all be aware of that it actually takes time to adapt to those way of working.
Yeah,
brilliant. Lovely little fact.
Can I add one bit here? The way I probably see, or probably my observation overall, why companies are prioritizing building the gender gap over the other kind of type of diversity that we need to build in. So I think in general, the tech industry has blown up, and every country has a tech center, which is predominantly, and with my experience working in India and now in Ireland, and I have spent some months in Germany as well. So I think in general, it is a male dominating industry. There is no denial in that. But like going back to Sheila's point at how having the right diverse group, you can have better decisions. But I think we have to admit as women that we have been a little bit, less creditable towards ourselves. Like I have seen with myself, it is to do with the psychology as well, to certain extent. We shy away of taking the credit. Right? If there is a male counterpart and both male and female counterpart have done the great job, and we sometimes take it, oh, it's okay, like we take it for granted. Oh, we did something, we have done so much hard work, but we still shy away of taking and accepting. I still do it sometimes, like, and I'm very thankful for the people and my mentors and bosses who kind of encourage me to accept the credit of the things that I've done. But I think it is the psychology as well. And then I have seen many women and girls that be my classmates coming from the engineering background who did the engineering, but they did not necessarily wanted to make a career out of it. And even at the level when I was starting as an engineer, became a lead engineer, I have seen many girls who did not wanted to move into the management because they were like, how will I find the right work-life balance? So so I think in general, overall, the tech industry is like, to certain extent, it is diverse in terms of every country has like, of course, if we talk about one country specific, maybe Dublin doesn't have all the sectors or all kind of diverse group, but in general, overall, I think they are diverse group. But I think the biggest challenge is the gender gap in the tech industry. And when we have, so maybe, like, I don't know what went ahead and why the companies decided to have the 50-50, but my observation is to make the right decision, at least there is a equal representative of female leaders in the panel, so that we can make the right decisions. And there's an element of empathy to the certain level, because many decisions are made with that, that strong will. Okay, we need to get it done, we need to hit that profit, but what about the people? So I think that soft side get missed. But when the moment you bring, the equal, you bridge that gap, you are targeting that empathy as well. So I think probably that was the biggest gap in the tech industry, and that's why the people decided to prioritize first the gender gap, and then they will follow the other diverse gaps as well. But I think the first one is the gender gap that I personally see in the tech industry.
Yeah. Perfect. And we had another one come in there again about gender as well. Businesses are making a huge effort to address the gender and diversity balance, but there is still significant disparity at director and boardroom level. What needs to be done to address this? Nora, would you have any insights to that?
Yeah, anecdotally, I've been working with graduates for the last few years since we started a graduate program in Salesforce, and quite interestingly, I was shocked when a couple of the young women I was working with came to me when I moved into a leadership role and said, we didn't even realize that leadership was an option for us. These are Gen Z, bright, you think they have the world ahead of them, and that it's totally different for them, but it's not. Representation matters at every level. So certainly at a board level, I can say, I mean, I'm really proud to say that Salesforce has made huge efforts in getting quite a diverse level of senior executives. Partly because the people ask for it, and when I say the people, I mean employees and our customers. And then secondly, I work with small and medium business, and at the end of the day, I'm not looking to put a very privileged lack of experience, and by experience I mean understanding and empathy of people around them. You could be any age, but I'm not willing to put somebody in front of somebody who's built their business from the ground up with their bare hands, and they understand what it takes, and they're creating a very diverse work environment. I can't bring a team of people in front of them that doesn't reflect that. So I make that decision as a leader, and I expect my senior leaders to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I was reading yesterday that only 40% of females will actually, who are studying engineering, will go on to pursue a career in engineering. That's a huge amount, 40%. And I know, Evelyn, you've worked with young women. Do you have any, I suppose, suggestions for young women that are studying or even new graduates?
Okay, yeah, sure. Now, if I like telling stories. About 2 weeks ago, I woke up, my phone beeped, and the message I got was from a young lady from LinkedIn. And this was like about 3 a.m. She woke up and she said, she sent me a text message, and she said, she's not my friend. Obviously, she was just searching LinkedIn to see how can she start this career that she has spent so much money training herself. She has a master's in data science. She has a degree in computer science or something like that, you know. Anyway, the message was, you see, I've been trying to get a job. You know, people think, oh, if you have computer science degree or whatever, yeah, the sky is your limit. No, it's not that. You know, so this girl has all this, and yet she's still looking for a job. So I woke up. Typically, I would wait till the next morning, but I felt the girl was crying for her to send me that text that late, and she's not even my friend on LinkedIn. So I stood up. I replied her. I said, "So why are they not accepting you?" She said, "This is because they give her tests, you know, most of the things they need to do programming tests and whatever for them to even consider her." And I said, okay, is that the area you want to specialize in? Because tech has different fields that you can actually specialize in. And she said, yes. And what do they want you to do? They want you to learn some sort of programming language. And don't you know, well, just a little bit. And I said, then maybe you should just stop looking for a job and sit down and learn the programming language and perfect your skills. You know, if you know that's the area you want to go, you want to be in, sit down and guess what? You don't even need to pay a dime for it. Go to YouTube. There's so many world-class teachers there that are offering it for free, you know. And she jumped up and said, yes, that's, just forget about the job. You know, you're staying with somebody, you know, tell your parents to feed you or whatever, focus on learning this thing. So this is what most people, most people fail to do. You know, they're running for this and they're not qualified enough, or they're not good enough for that position. You know, so that would be an advice I would give to somebody that is actually looking to get into that space, to make sure they are good at what they want to be, because there's so many professions again areas to specialize in IT. You could be a data scientist, you could be a software developer, you could be a web developer, whatever, you know, but know what it takes to be that good. And I'm also I'll give an example of myself. You see, I've been working for myself for such a long time. But the first time I got a job as a programmer, I got a job as a senior software developer. I never got a job as a junior developer. No, I got a job as a senior. And why? This is because I developed my portfolio, because that's my field. That is what will tell the world, or wherever I want to sell myself to, that I can do this. It's not even enough to say, okay, I have a degree. At times you don't even have to have a degree if you want to be a developer. I'm not saying don't have a degree, but to be honest with you, it's your skills that matter. So that's what I would advise. If you want to be in this field, you want to make sure you have your portfolio ready to sell yourself, you know, be good at what you do. And soft skills is so important. At times, your programming skill can get you there, but it will not keep you there, because your attitude is key as well. You can be shown out of the door to say, listen, you're not good enough because of the way you behave. So attitude is key as well. I can go, there's a lot, but these are the main things that I find very relevant for you to get in and remain in that field.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice for graduates. And we have a question from Sheila Sullivan. It's quite a long one, so I was just wondering if Sinead would like to unmute yourself to ask, possibly. Or if not, bear with me while I read it. We'll see.
Hi, everybody. So just a little bit of background. We're a learning and development company. We actually create diversity and inclusion trainings for our clients who are, worldwide. But we're only a team of 19 people. Everybody has to be at their absolute best at all times in order to achieve what we need to be able to achieve. But we're basically still an Irish startup, but we're doing really well. Now, the problem is every time we hire somebody, although they might be a different nationality, they're always white. And this, of course, is creating issues because when people visit our website, they're like, yeah, you're doing diversity inclusion sims. Great. Where's your own diversity? We're not seeing it. You know, our Java developers might be, you know, Spanish or Polish or Croatian. And that's great that we have all these cultures, but, you know, they're all white. I need some ideas on how to go about tapping into a more diverse pool of applicants. I mean, we hire people, we interview anybody who's got the right skill set. We interview them regardless of their gender, their color, their creed. It really doesn't matter to us. But whatever is happening, we keep on hiring white people because they're scoring the best on the tests that they're given. They're interviewing the best in terms of the soft skills. But as an L&D company, you know, particularly since we're currently pushing our diversity and inclusion sims, it's creating commercial problems for us, and we really need to get better at finding where all this top talent is. Like all you guys, I'm looking at all your faces around the table. It's great. There's so many, you know, different nationalities. We're, you know, you're all women too. We have a 50-50 split almost, female, male. So that's not our problem. But we're all white, and that is the problem. Because our clients want to see our company reflect back what they want, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sinead. I'll leave it open to anybody on the panel that wants to answer that question.
Yeah, that's a really interesting, it's great to hear that other people have had that same challenge, you know, that we're not alone with that. And I know certainly a few years ago, we found that to be a massive challenge for us. And so we did a couple of things. One was we actually looked at changing the interview process. So we tend to do, as many companies do, we'll do a panel to understand, do a little bit of an introduction, you know, it might be a first call. We do give a task to our candidates and then we'll follow it up with a final call. Sometimes it can take longer, but ultimately the decision making is a little bit different. So we used to be quite black and white really about, you know, what's your score? We were more quantitative than qualitative in our assessment, and we changed that. And one of the biggest questions that my manager actually taught me to really think of was, he said, do you see yourself being able to coach this person? Is this person able to learn, and are they coachable? So you probably have a super high standard of amazing people on your team, Sinead, but I bet those people would actually be able to teach other people, take somebody under their wing and help those people be able to grow as well. And that was ultimately what helped us to create a much more diverse set of skills and a much more diverse team.
I suppose there's only maybe 3 or 4 people on each team. So we've got our instructional designers, and there's 3 of them, you know, and then we've got our Java developers, and there's 5 of them, and then we've got the UX UI, and there's 2 of them. So each team is not very big and does not have a huge amount of time for coaching. Like we do coaching, and we do PDPs and you know, developing people's careers and having a look at, you know, supporting their own training and development. A lot of what we're doing is right. And I just feel that what we're doing wrong is we're not managing to attract the quality of applicants from a diverse enough pool. I mean, it must be that, because I know that there's got to be outstanding data scientists out there who are not white, you know, and that would do great in our organization. But I think that maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, or I'm not writing the ads inclusively enough, even though, you know, we're like, yeah, everybody's welcome in the ads, and, you know, but invariably, although we've got French, Croatian, Spanish, we've got all sorts of nationalities, Americans and Irish, and there's only 19 of us. So it's a pretty good, you know, cultural mix, but really it's not reflected in you know, in the color of our skin, you know, which shouldn't, it doesn't matter. But I'm worried about, you know, over scoring somebody or hiring somebody that's maybe not as strong as a white person just because I want more diversity, and I'm worried about that. I don't know what to.
I was going to mention, Nora, when we spoke previously, you mentioned a competency-based spec.
Yeah, we actually had to radically change how we attracted talent. So that was a good point, Sinead. I mentioned we have 5 inclusive hiring principles. I won't go through them all, they're a little bit wordy, but number 4 is that we map candidates to core competencies and our values, not our culture fit. And actually, one of the things that we do is we do a lot of training on how to change the language. We get external people to even sense check. If you have an external mentor, look, we work with small businesses as well. You've got 19 people. We started with a team of 6 and we're now 80 something. And that was in a few short years, but really because we took external ideas. When we didn't have the diversity to get the ideas from people internally, we went outside to ask people, give us your outside perspective on this. What would you change? What would you do? And to go through it with us step by step, which has massively helped us.
Thanks, Nora.
And can I use an opportunity to mention this, and based on what Sinead asked, there's a program that we are, because of the complaint about what companies, about not having enough people of color, let's put it that way, in their team, especially when it comes to IT. And because of that, we've decided to come up with a program. We know they're there, but for some reason, maybe not as much. We know they're there, but for some reason people are not finding them. So we are currently putting together teams of developers, Black developers, women. Do you get it? We're putting together, and at the same time, we are also nurturing a group of them as well. And what we will be asking for come next year, sometime in January, we're starting this program. We're teaching them. It's like an apprenticeship thing. There, you're not spending money. We are coaching them. We're not just teaching them the programming skills or whatever they need to know, but we are also teaching them soft skills. But the plan is to get one company to mentor them. So they'll be working with a company. It's like apprenticeship. So you're not paying, So we plan to roll that out. I will be reaching out to several companies to be part of this program. So then you can, you're not spending money, but you're getting somebody that's diverse and they're learning with you. Do you know that? So maybe then, Sinead, you can contact me and we'll talk about that.
That's brilliant, Evelyn.
Yeah. There are 2 more things, Lauren, I would like to add that may help Sinead. So I think, Sinead, your question is very valid, and it's important to have all the colors representative. So if I were you, I probably will look also into the marketing materials, that how we are putting ourselves out. And if we don't have all the color faces, then I probably will try to bring the cultures in a way in the marketing material to make sure that it is targeting and attracting the talent from the different backgrounds. Second thing, I will definitely probably rework, like how Nora was mentioning, with the talent acquisition team to see how we are reaching out to the people. And if there's a specific group that we are targeting, then we will give the specific instructions to our talent acquisition team to reach out to those people. And the third thing that I have personally experienced, that the new hires, the graduates and interns, there is where you have the most diverse group sitting. And because there are more people from different cultures, all different genders and different groups who are open for new opportunities. Of course, there will be a training structure need to put in place, like how Nora mentioned, that you make sure you have a training development plan for all these people. But I think probably the best chance is to attract interns and graduates, and hopefully you will find all kind of colors, all beautiful colors there.
Unfortunately, everybody on the team is quite senior, because we can't, like, with only 19 people and a huge number of simulations to be built and written, we actually don't have any interns. I'd love to get interns, because I know that that's a great way to get your diversity and then grow internally. And then eventually you end up with directors who are homegrown in your business almost, which is the dream. That is the dream. And hopefully as we grow, we'll have an opportunity to take on those junior members. That would be fantastic.
And I add a point.
Yeah, sorry.
I think when I do an empathy, Sinead, to your client, what to me means is like they actually want your diverse and inclusion courses coming from sourced also from diverse backgrounds.
We have consultants who are diverse, and they're
So-
helping to write it. So we're not necessarily writing the content as, you know, white Irish people in Ireland. A lot of the
Sure.
things are, you know, we take on consultants, and they would be incredibly diverse team, but they're not our permanent employees, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe that piece that they would like to see, plus, you know, your team's diversity as well. Maybe that piece that you I don't know how you put that into your website or your communication, but maybe that would be something for them as well.
Thanks, everybody. I'll let you get back to your
Okay.
other conversations. Thank you for your time.
Brilliant. We've had excellent engagement in this webinar. So we'll finish with one last question and then we'll just bring together our final thoughts, if that's okay. So the final question is, someone once mentioned that in order for women to succeed, they need to be in the top 10% of their peers, but for men, the bar is lower. Is this an observation you've seen in reality? If so, how do you deal with the pressure? I'll leave that open to anybody that wants to answer it.
Lauren, can you repeat that question?
Yeah.
Some pieces, yeah.
Of course. Someone once mentioned that in order for women to succeed, they need to be in the top 10% of their peers, but for men, the bar is lower. Is this an observation you've seen in reality? If so, how do you deal with the pressure?
I probably can answer that. I probably go back to my original challenge, that us as being a women, I think it is to do with the psychology. We are lots of time judgmental about, oh, because we have to be in the top 10% and that's where we get it. Instead of competing with each other, I think we need to have a healthy competition in general. Like most of the time I have seen a woman is competing with other women, and that's where that 10% comes in the picture. I think we need to stop competing and fighting with each other. Instead, we need to start giving hands to other women. If we see somebody, whether it's reporting to us or working with us, we need to start praising, you know, that other women who's brilliantly performing, and that probably will do some culture shift and mindset change. But I actually personally don't agree that you have to be in the top 10% versus. I think it is a psychological thing that we feel it is existing. But I think in general, it is to do the competitiveness. It is how well you are performing, how committed you are, and of course, it to large it depends. Your leadership as well. That are they ready to invest? Are they able to bring more women onto the leadership positions as well? So it's a combination of both. But personally, I don't agree that you have to be at the top 10% versus the man doesn't have to be. In any role, the more you go up, the curve is becoming narrow, right? So you have to be best at what you do. It's not only in tech industry or just business or anything. It is in general in life as well. I think it is more the psychologically that we feel that we need to be at the top. We need to push the other women so that we can get on the top. I think that something needs to go. It's traditional. It's outdated. That thinking needs to go out for me personally.
Yeah, perfect. And I suppose to conclude, does anybody have any final thoughts?
I think we're all very confident people, and we probably have enough that we could share with other people. So I think advocating for others who don't have that same confidence is a really good point. I hear it every single day, or people think, oh, I don't know, am I doing the right thing? I'm terrible at my job. And I can use data to show them that they are in the top 10%, but you have to believe in yourself. Nobody else is going to believe in you for you unless you do it for yourself, but we can share some of that.
We sometimes self-sabotage ourselves as well. It's just like once we get that limitation for ourselves, then we are actually looking good, like you said, Nora. We need that sometimes validation of what are the good things that we achieved so far from another person sometime. Yeah.
It's that imposter syndrome that everybody gets. And I think everybody gets that. It's not just females, males and females get that. But again, it's like, how do you make sure that people get outside of that and know their true worth and their true value? I think that's so important.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I suppose to conclude, thank you for or Evelyn, did you want to jump in there?
Sorry, I was going to say in conclusion, I think we should also, celebrate what we have at the moment. And we should also realize that small steps still move forward. You know, we've come a long way. Things, if you look back a couple of years ago, you know, things are not like this. So we should celebrate what we have. And also to whoever is listening, and when you empower a woman, you empower the nation, you know. So yeah, that's why I call myself a woman in tech evangelist. So keep at it. And if you get more women on board, and your organization will be better.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, thank you to everybody who joined our webinar today. It's been so successful and brilliant engagement. And a special thanks to all our panelists. As you can see, they've really brought some light to the topic, and they definitely are diversity advocates. So connect with everybody on the panel here, and if you have any questions, you know, feel free to drop us a message. And also don't forget to connect to our GCS diversity LinkedIn page. I think Betty's dropped it there into the chat. And thank you, everybody. There'll be a survey that will pop up here, so please fill it out and let us know what you think. And thanks, everybody. Thanks to our panelists, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you.